What's happening, everybody? I'm back. It's me, your resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington, and I am here with my review for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And if you have not seen this film, come on back, because there will be spoilers. I apologize for the delay. This has been well overdue, but if you've been following the craziness that's been happening, how I haven't had man tightened up with blurs and all those other things, you know I've been having some computer issues. So shouts out to the swaggy blur, Winston A. Marshall. He brought through his old computer, so we're going to use that, and we better. But nonetheless, thank you. Also, a deep and sincere thank you to everyone who has checked in on me. I am now within my 6th week of post-spinal surgery. Thank you everyone who's checked in for the kind words, who has sent a message, DM, who supports the GoFundMe, which the link to that will be in the bio, in the description of the video. Thank you to everybody. Sincerely, it means the world to me. To the members of the Supervillain Squad on Patreon, thank you. To my co-host of the Man Titan Podcast, BC, thank you for putting up stuff for the BC's bullshit on the Patreon for the patrons to have something, because I've been trying to get all this together. So I watched this movie, and I, like many other people, wanted to, if you've been a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise, you definitely want to see how this was going to end. Right? You wanted it because you were told this is the final reckoning. This is going to be the last Mission Impossible movie, right? And you think, okay, that means Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt is going to go out in some blaze of glory. Now, we saw in the trailer him hanging from a plane. We've seen him on an aircraft carrier and things like that. And for those who don't know, he got actual permission from the U.S. Navy to use the actual USS George W. Bush, the actual aircraft carrier, that we saw in the film. And when I'm saying all of that to summarize my thoughts, don't call this the final reckoning, and pretty much this ain't final. Because before I go into a full review of the film, director Christopher McQuarrie was like, there might be more movies after this. Now, we already know, if you haven't heard, Tom Cruise's next film, and it's not a Mission Impossible film, he's filming in space. Actual space. He wanted to do it for this one, but they would not clear him. He's currently working with NASA and SpaceX for the clearance to do all the shit in space. This movie, to me, was supposed to be a full-on love letter to the franchise, the films, the fans, and even to the TV series in a sense. And watching everything with the Entity, for those of you who watched Dead Reckoning, I think the thing about it with the Entity is it's scary in the fact that AI has become a real thing, a real demon in which we're dealing with now in society. I know there are some people who enjoy playing around with it, who think it's nothing, but then you have those and they put it into the script, which is true. And again, you're talking about a movie that's been shot over a couple years ago that stopped due to COVID, blah, blah, blah. But how AI can put out misinformation and people can't discern it. How it can make things seem real and people now can't tell the difference. And we're having that happen already. So it is kind of scary in that regard. Isai Morales, I was like, yo, he's doing a decent job. They did a flashback saying that me and everybody else who's seen the movie was like, hey, this shit wasn't in none of the movies. Like, everybody went back and watched all the movies. Haley Atwell does her part. Justice for Ilsa, who died in Dead Reckoning. Palm Clementip is amazing. I love to see people get a chance to be outside of the wheelhouse in which we know. And I say that because many of us only know Palm from being Mantis in Guardian of the Galaxy. But to show in a whole different level, on a whole different action spectrum with this, in this film, was great. Benji is phenomenal. Simon Pegg does what he does. He really steps up. The evolution of his character arc throughout all of the Mission Impossible since he's been introduced has been one of the ones with the most full growth and ascension. I mean, people learn lessons, but to go from just tech guy in the back and just helping sneakily to being a full-on part of the team, to being a field agent, to getting blessed to being team leader, you look at Benji's thing. But I get all that. The one that hurt me, Luther Stickle, man, Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames has been a part of this franchise with Tom Cruise since the beginning. And there is a scene, again, spoiler alert, that Gabriel, played by Isa Morales, sets up a thing where Luther has to die regardless. It's either Luther dies or a whole city goes and Luther dies. And I want to say this, from one Luther to another Luther, thank you for your service. For those who are probably wondering, like, what the fuck is Jay talking about from one Luther to another? My character in American Gigolo, his name was Luther. So from one Luther to another. The sadness of it, watching it happen, and him, the heartbreaking moment, it did almost bring a tear to the eye. But Ving Rhames has played the hell out of this. So again, it's going to be sad should this franchise still continue to go forward and he's not there. Now, granted, yes, you do have to have, you have a team like this and you have situations like this and these missions and they're so intense where people can go. So it's like, yeah, you do have to eliminate some people sometimes. To have the tie-in with Kittredge and, the White Widow with Alana, with, her mom being Max from the first one, all these, and that's in Dead Reckoning, of course, but all these different tie-ins going back to the very first movie. Look, there was a scene in the submarine. Shouts out to the homie Katie O'Brien. She is amazing. Katie, you deserve all the love and all the things you were getting. You were phenomenal. I'll tell you that straight up. To see her in the submarine part was phenomenal. I'm wondering if he was really in the ocean. Here's the thing. It would not surprise me, and also being under the ice caps. It would not surprise me with Tom Cruise. The scene where the airplane chase with him and Gabriel, and to watch him do all of those stunts where he is literally crawling on the wing of the airplane, and it is him in the air. We don't see a harness. Maybe there is a harness, and they would be able to digitally remove it, but for the most part, it's not a stunt person. It's him doing it. And I said this to a lot of people afterwards, and it was like, oh, don't say that. And I'm going to say it to y'all, because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I think Tom Cruise wants to die on film. And I say that because what better way to cement his action? He is the action star. We have other action stars, but he is the star. I think there should be no argument about this. He is unequivocally the star. What better way to cement his action star legacy than to die on camera, filming a scene for the film, and making it in his will or whatever that the scene stays in? His scenes, the stunts he's doing at 60, by the way, are incredible. It was just a lot of stuff. But I do feel like this. One of the biggest things I think we could say, and it goes back to something I was saying earlier, we could have cut 20 minutes off this movie. We could have cut a quick 20. Look, I know we all love seeing little tiny Tom Cruise's legs run through cities and him running through London and running past Parliament and all that shit. Here's the thing. That comes back to the Luther Stickle part. Luther could have lived if he'd have stole a car. He's like, I gotta get to Luther. And he running. And I'm like, steal a car. And I know it was just. And the thing is also, when you have people like myself, people who do reviews, critics, pundits, whatever you choose to call us, when we always say, yeah, certain movies could have been a little bit shorter, the first thing that comes up, of course, is going to be, well, you'll sit through a whole Marvel movie. And there have been some Marvel films in which that have had extended lengths that I think could have been shorter. Yes, there are. But that was just my thought on this one. The tricking of the entity, everything that happened with that, and with the last minute, with the tenth of a second, the blink of an eye, snatching up the disc to the drive to capture the entity and all the things. But the fact that the entity still remains in a drive, and that Ethan, this again, if you're this far in already, we're past the spoilers. The entity is alive within a drive. Granted, they have the source code, but it's alive within a drive. And Ethan and his team, minus Luther, are still alive. So how is this the final reckoning when Ethan Hunt has never specifically said, I'm retiring, I'm done? Every single time Ethan Hunt has said, I'm walking away, we got another freaking movie. And I know some people probably like, well, are you complaining if we get another movie? No! Just don't call it the final reckoning. Just should have been Dead Reckoning Part 2. I could have lived with that. Again, that's my perception as opposed to others. Okay? I think I should have made this way smaller, but it is what it is. We're way far into this right now. Again, great love letter to the franchise. I think it did what it was supposed to do. It gave a lot of love to, like I said, to the franchise, to the film, but a lot of the characters, it closed a lot of time. To find out, also, this is one of the things that shocked me. I rewatched this movie, Mission Impossible 3, with arguably the best villain of the entire Mission Impossible series. Philip Seymour Hoffman is Davian, okay? He's arguably the best villain. When he's got him over, I think it's a plane, and the window's open, the door's open, and he's threatening to shoot him and all this, and Luther's like, Ethan, don't do it! Ethan, don't do it! And he's like, do you have somebody you love? I'm going, said it calmly. That is the measure of a good villain, when you just be like, do you have somebody you love? You do realize I'm going to find them, and I'm going to hurt them. But going back to that, to find out, in 3, we were looking for the rabbit's foot, and never found out what the rabbit's, because Brazel, played by Lawrence Fishburne, he gave the rabbit's foot to him. We never knew what the rabbit's foot was directly. But to find out that the entity, the Podkova, that we even see in Dead Reckoning, was the rabbit's foot. We had the biological warning on it, so we thought it was a biological weapon, but it's technically worse. Well, I won't say technically worse. I shouldn't say that. But again, the connections all the way around, I think, was great. To see Angela Bassett as the president, how she had to make a tough decision, and the entity was going to make the nukes happen, and the president's advisors like, yo, preemptively do this and get rid of an American city, sacrifice a city to prevent all-out global thermonuclear war. And for a half a second, she was going to do it, and then stopped. And then the entity, having its own acolytes, was infiltrated. It's like, that's crazy, but it worked. Also, the mask and everything, still playing its part. Everything works. So, with that being said, I did love it. If I had to give this movie a rating on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm giving it a 4. Like I said, the length was a little bit of thing for me, as well as like certain things that could have been done differently. I stand on, you could have saved Luther if you wasn't bucking, running. But listen, that's what I think. I want to know what you think in the comments down below. Please keep it civil. Please. Again, I know I've left this thing way too big and it should have been way smaller. Like, that's on me. I'm sorry about that. Look, find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all across the board. Mr. J. Washington, MRJAY. You should know how to spell Washington. If you are in Dallas, Texas, this Sunday, June 8th, I will be at the Dallas Comedy Club. One show only, 8:30 p.m. I got a dope-ass lineup. I'm headlining that night. Come on out. Tickets are still available. A few tickets are still available. Grab your tickets. I know I had made a video that at first I hadn't sold anything. And then I found out people buy tickets week of, and then all of a sudden tickets just started moving. I was like, yo, that's dope. So go ahead and grab your tickets for that. I got a lot of things coming up. Hopefully I will see a lot of you all next month, July, in San Diego Comic-Con. Can't wait for that. All these things and more, man. Make sure you check out the Mad Titan podcast. I'm going to be recording a new episode of that, as well as Blurs in the Hood. We're trying to work that out to get that back as frequently as we can as well also. All right. Holla at y'all later. Till then, take care.